So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. We sincerely appreciate uh, your availability and your willingness to listen to our students. So this is the first open campus-wide student panel that we're hosting for our foster youth. But on the past, we had Flex Day event where we allow our students the courage to bring over their specific journey and suggestions that they have for our campus. So we wanted to continue on this series, but also expand it to everyone. So this event, it's intended for students to be highlighted. If you have particular questions about our programs, we can go into it. But the main emphasis and focus today is listening from our students, their journey, our programs, their struggles. So we're gonna go and do specific introductions. So we have three amazing, wonderful students that has been participating actively into our programs. Some of them are ready to transfer. Some of them came back after a leave of absence, and they have a specific dynamics and journeys that at the end of the day brought them here. So without further ado, just want to start. My name is Jose Milan. Thank you so much. Um, I work for a variety of programs. Right now, we're going to be highlighting our Guardian Scholars, but we have a NextUp that focusing to foster youth support as well. We have Care and CalWorks. So thank you for that reminder. So let me start with Shay. Just introduce yourself. Who are you? What semester you're on? And then what program are you participating?
As Jose said, my name is Shay. I am part of GSP and I am on my third semester after a short break.
Hi, everyone. My name is Denaja by Go by D. I'm currently in Guardian Scholars Next Up Honors Transfers Program, Vice President of Psi Beta Honor Society on campus. I also participate in, I'm trying to think of the name of it. I'm so sorry. Um, in Promise Scholars and EOPS as well. I am currently a major in psychology, and I am in the process of transferring to a four-year university.
Hello, my name is Cecilia. My major is psychology. I'm part of GSP.
Thank you so much for the introductions. I know for the people on Zoom, we're working on aligning the camera so you can see all of our students on the panel. One thing that I want to acknowledge before we start with the questions, it takes a lot of courage. I know that at times it's anxiety provoking. It might be triggering to be able to share specific things that make us uncomfortable. So they're taking the courage and the resiliency that they have gone through their entire lives to be able to be here and share with you. So if at any given point I want to remind my students, if you feel comfortable continuing after taking a pause, taking a break, that's completely okay. I have seen it on the past and the power of being able to be vulnerable, but at times we need to step back and take a moment. So that's okay. If you go through any specific feelings and you need a moment, that's completely okay. We all understand. We are in a safe space. And without further ado, let's start with the questions. One thing that I want to mention is if we have time, hopefully we will, we are going to be able to answer questions both over Zoom, also here in person, but we're going to leave those questions at the end. And we promise if we don't get to your questions, we are going to follow up with you. We want to make sure that everyone has our grasp and understanding what our programs are, the journey of our students have faced. And also, if you have any particular questions that you know that you can always reach out to us whenever. So the first question that we have for you today is, can you start by sharing your journey through the foster care system? And I'm going to start with Cecilia.
Okay. Okay. So my journey through the foster care system, I guess it was traumatic to say the least. I got moved around a lot. And I was very young when I was in the foster care system, but I remember like everything. And yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't the best. And I can still see how it's affected me, like in my throughout, like, you know, adulting and everything. So yeah.
From my experience in the foster care system, I entered at the age of 2. My mom had some illnesses and issues that she had to deal with. So just for the betterment of my own like life trajectory, I was put into the system. And even though I wasn't moved around a lot, it was still very traumatic. There are so many subconscious things that happen to the brain when you're separated from like your parent. Even if it's done with good intention and will, there's still a lot of side effects that lots of us deal with. But I was able to have the opportunity to really like learn from other people who had worse experiences in the foster care system than I did. And so I had the people that I would look at and see and be like, okay, this is what happens when you don't have access to resources, and you don't have access to opportunities, and your life is not going in a positive manner. And then you also have the other side of people who have like the lucky, the pick of the lottery, and they're able to have resources and opportunities to grow themselves and have access to necessary resources like therapy to heal from the trauma that they have from foster care. Um, I recently aged out, and I think that there's a lot of support systems that are not put in place for foster youth when they get aged out, and people don't really understand that there's different forms of foster care, there's different types of like guardianship, and not everyone gets support from it after they leave.
I was taken from my mom very young. I was about 6 months old. So a lot of my foster care memories are told through family members. And one of probably the worst memories is going to, I used to go, all of my foster families tried to keep me somewhat in relations to my biological family. And every year we would go to my grandmother's house for either Thanksgiving or Christmas. And hearing the stories of people attempting to foster or adopt me, but being told by other family members that they couldn't do it for one reason or another, whether they had too many other kids or they just bailed out of the system, I'm not exactly sure. But knowing that your family wanted you, but also didn't want you was kind of the worst memory for me.
Thank you so much. Again, it takes a lot of resiliency to sit up front, be able to share your story. I was gonna do an activity, but I decided that I was gonna explain it to you. And this is something that I experienced in one conference that I attended last year. And imagine this. Unfortunately, but also make me feel so uncomfortable at the time, but I like the specific activity. So people sitting in a room like we are, and then we get to be pair or in groups of 3 or 4, and then you're asked by the facilitator if you have the courage and you feel comfortable to share one of your most personal traumatic things that you have experienced in your family. And as you become vulnerable and you start telling your story, somebody comes and tap you in the shoulder and told you to move. When that happened to me, I was shocked and I felt uncomfortable and I felt offended at that particular time because I was opening up my heart with strangers, telling them a specific journeys, how my dad passed, that I have a little one that is autistic. And so the outcome for that is particular activity and the main focus was, well, imagine how our foster youth goes through on their journey. It doesn't happen once or twice or 3 times or 4 times. At times it happened as many times as 20, more than that we cannot imagine. And so when we start picturing the journey and the things that our students are telling us and why there's a lot of inconsistency, why there's a lot of trauma, we can, in a fragment of a specific dynamic, we can start seeing how uncomfortable and challenging it is and why at times it really takes time for someone to regain trust, to have that bonding with the specific folks, because you have to repeat your trauma over and over and over and over. So I do want to thank you for your courage. Again, that particular, I know it's different hearing it, that I'm actually being vulnerable, but because we have two modalities, I wanted to be fair for the people online as well. But I wanted to be specific with the dynamic. And so when we end up today and we leave, just think of those specific things that our students face, and how when you open up your heart and you have to constantly tell people over and over. So that's overly challenging. And that's one of the things that they were touching base in transitions. So saying that, I'm going to jump into our next question. So question number 2, how is the Guardian Scholars Program specifically supporting you and empower you as a foster youth at Skyline College?
I think finding community as like a first gen at like DSP was really helpful for me. I've struggled a lot like navigating myself through college, and then once I was able to kind of like open up and I guess feel comfortable with like accepting help and support here, um, that helped me a lot. But yeah.
From my perspective, I feel as though Guardian Scholars has like supported me in multiple ways, whether it be academic or personal. The Jose and all the counselors, retention specialists that work in Guardian Scholars, they're very sensitive and understanding to the things that we have gone through. And so when they interact with us, they know that there's certain things or triggers or topics that we may react to or speak about differently, and they don't look at us in a tone of judgment. They come to us with very open arms and they say, well, how can we help? What can we do? What do you need? It's not turning us into victim blaming and saying, well, it's your fault that you didn't do the assignment, because there's so many external factors that they understand contribute to our academic journey and our personal growth. So I believe that Guardian Scholars is very supportive and empowering for foster youth at Skyline.
Very similar to what Denaja said. I met Jose one day when I was not doing very well physically or mentally, or actually health-wise either. And he was there was another student that was kind of helping assist me with, not feeling very good. And they went and grabbed Jose. Jose could have come very overbearingly, checked and said, do you need this, and this? But he came with gentle open arms and just kind of came, observed, didn't really bother me, observed and tried to figure out what's going on. A couple of days later, he came, reached back out and was like, hey, I work with Carmen. I know you know Carmen. I'm also part of the program. And ever since the day that I met Jose, I can only say that GSP and everybody that's been in that program has helped me tremendously in one way or another.
Thank you so much for having the program in such high regards. We know that we want to continue to grow and provide support. So thank you for bringing that insight. The third question that we have is, what struggles in your personal life or at Skyline have you experienced?
I guess like just like um academically, I struggle a lot because I'm dyslexic, and that's always been a thing for me that makes like getting through like, reading or math like very difficult. Um so that's something that I've struggled a lot with, and like some professors are understanding and very helpful, but some of them aren't. And yeah, so that's like a struggle that I've had, and just being a part of GSP and having like that support has helped me kind of advocate for myself and have people there like supporting me also um, when it comes to all that. So I'm very grateful for GSP for that. But yeah, that's some of the struggles.
For me, I have a lot of mental health issues that I deal with from trauma from being in the foster care system. I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a form of PTSD that is, it stems from multiple traumatic events in your lifetime. I also have a condition that is called psychogenic non-epileptic seizures. So it is a rare conversion disorder. There's no cure for it. There's no medication that you can take for it. And basically what happens is that your body will convert stress into different physical symptoms, whether that be you physically getting sick, getting what seems like is a cold, whether it's a productive cough, runny nose, anything like that. For me, I get seizures. They look like epileptic seizures, but there's nothing that you can really do about it. Um, and I would just say that a lot of people are not very understanding of why, especially people who have mental health disorders, have certain reactions or behave in certain ways or aren't able to do things in the same way as our peers and our counterparts. And I feel like Guardian Scholars has helped me advocate for myself in times when I didn't know how to do so, but they also, in that process, taught me how to advocate for myself and helped me develop resiliency. So that way, when I was denied at one door, I knew that that wasn't my only option. And there's always somewhere else or someone else that you can go to and to get help or get resources or get what you need. Even if you get no many different times, there's so many other outlets and avenues that you can take. It just takes time and it just takes support. And that support I get from Guardian Scholars.
For me, I guess, and I've gone to Jose about this many a times, crying and being upset. Um, my sister and I, when we were very young, we used to be really, really close. Um, so much so that when she would have issues in school or have battles that she needed to fight, I would fight by her side. And as we got older, our bond became thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner, to the point, at this point, I have not seen or talked to my sister in over 10 years. And I kind of miss that. But, talking to Jose and talking to Carmen and other people in the GSAP program have helped me realize that just like I have my own mental health as well as health stuff, which is why I have a service dog who's misbehaving right now, but she's under the table. But having my own health stuff, he's also helped me realize, like, it's not that your sister doesn't want to talk to you or doesn't want to see you. She might have her own stuff going on. And so through that, I've been able to kind of somewhat more understand why we've lost that bond.
Okay, I just wanted to add something really quick with Jose when he said earlier that we all have different forms of traumas and our own struggles. When I go to therapy, I get tired of repeating the same story over and over. It got to the point where I just have a PDF file and I just send it to them. So there are so many impacts that we all face. And even though we don't have the time to go through everything, just know that it is very extensive and it does have a significant impact on foster youth.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for being upfront, and thank you for bringing these sensitive issues into matter. I want to transition to the next question. And when we see struggle, we also see opportunities for success. And we know for a fact that throughout the journeys that you have encountered and the issues that you have faced, there has been achievement that you have been able to accomplish. So with that in mind, I want to jump into our 4 questions. So if you don't mind, could you share with us a particular success story or positive experience you have while participating in our program?
I don't really have like a particular success story, but I guess continuing to persevere in college, despite the difficulties that come with having a learning disability, and just being able to feel like comfortable with advocating for myself with the support of like my counselors and like Jose and Carmen and everyone. Um, that's really been like a big thing for me that I'm proud of, because I wasn't always comfortable with asking for help and just receiving like those resources that are there. So yeah, that was a big thing for me.
I'm very grateful to the Guardian Scholars Program because I'm one of those kids that like I get an idea and I shoot it out and usually I get a rejection. With Guardian Scholars, they're like, all right, what do we need to do? Let's go. And with that support, I've been able to present my research on Black maternal mortality rates at Stanford University last year. I'm currently in the process right now of submitting my undergraduate research for publication in the second annual National Psychology Summit. And I have also been able to meet really significant people. Last semester, we had the J Bay Gala, which is the John Burden Advocates for Youth, and they do a lot of work with homeless and foster youth and getting bills passed through the Senate and the House of Representatives. And I was able to meet Nancy Pelosi's husband. His name is slipping my mind, but that was one of the nights where I got like so much information, and it was like a celebration of a community that usually is thrown underneath the rug. And I feel like without Guardian Scholars, I wouldn't have been able to get as far as I have academically and personally where I'm at today.
For me, I think uh, just a little while ago, probably about 6 to 9 months ago, I was homeless and living on a beach. It was also probably one of the first times that I met Jose, and he immediately called me and said, "Hey, we have a foster youth that is sleeping on the beach right now, or a dog. Like, there's nowhere for her to go." And I think in talking to them and them actually, taking me to the store and getting me a blanket, getting me somewhere, getting me a tent, getting me a bed, even though it was out on the streets, by them just simply doing that, it gave me a little bit more hope that I would be able to like continue. Because at that point, I was kind of done with college. I was like, this is my life. This is what I'm gonna do. Be on the beach and live my life, right? Kind of. But by them actually caring enough and saying, no, you are worth spending our money on. You're worth, you know, continuing going in college. I got up the next day, even though I didn't have nowhere to go. And I got up and I came to school. And even though I was still struggling that semester, I ended up managing to get all B's in my classes. So I really contribute, continuing to go to college and stay in the school to Jose and Carmen.
Thank you so much. I think we all appreciate the sincerity and everything you bring into the table. So we're going to be transitioning to our official last question, but I know that there might be a couple other questions. You will have an opportunity as well to add anything or touch base into any specific subjects that we didn't touch on these particular questions. So for our last questions, officially, in what ways do you think GSP could improve or expand to better meet the needs for foster youth at Skyline College?
In my opinion, and I do want to say, I really do appreciate all the services and support that I do get from Guardian Scholars, whether that be food vouchers or getting help with finding tutoring or accessing resources on campus or off of campus. I do think that there are so many things that could be done to expand it, whether that be adding more funding into Guardian Scholars programs, because without these programs, a lot of us wouldn't even be here. Most people don't understand that only 3% of foster youth after they age out only get a BA, 3% of the foster youth population in the United States. California, it is higher due to the initiatives that are done by John Burden and his advocacy team. But I think that if there was more mental health services or specialized services specifically for foster youth, that would help us a lot more because we are a population that is forgotten. Even though people don't like to admit that, they're like, oh, you have this program and this program. You don't ever see us really being acknowledged. You don't really see us around campus. It's more so keep your head down, walk around, do what you need to do, go home. The only time where I really feel like, okay, like I'm accepted here, I can be here, it's a community, is when I am with Guardian Scholars. So if there's any possible way to get more funding for the program or help us get more food vouchers. Because when you do the math, the $50 a month does not last a month. and for me, in my case, I don't work outside of school. So this is my only form of income. So money is very tight. Groceries is like it's like a car payment now. So it's like I go to school and I have to decide, am I going to get breakfast or am I going to get lunch? And it's like, how can you focus on your studies if you're hungry or if you're tired? There's so many different things that I think that if they had the funding for, we would already have. So that way it would make it an equitable playing field. Because when you speak to your peers, they don't always have the same struggles. They have family that they can call on and depend on and say, hey, I need help. I need gas money. I need help getting food. I don't have groceries at home. They can do that. We all don't have that option. I also think that if Guardian Scholars were to be expanded to more populations, it would benefit foster youth as a whole, because I don't, in my opinion, don't understand why there's certain regulations and policies to be in a program that's catered to foster youth, but you're not including all foster youth. That doesn't make sense to me. There needs to be a way that we can all be supported, because right now I'm in the process of transferring and there's some schools I can't even attend because they won't support me and they won't have the funding or don't have a Guardian Scholars program at all. Because of the age cutoff being 13, it does limit who they can help. So I think that if it was more expansive as a whole and had more funding from the state, then we would be able to really make a change and really see an impact and raise that 3% to a higher number, because I think that that could be much higher. It should be much higher. It shouldn't be 3%. That is insane to me. 50% of us only graduate from high school or get a GED. So it is a very serious topic. And I think that if Skyline is equitable, they will continue to fund the program and they will make sure that it's catered to everybody, because if it's not, then they're not following their mission of being equitable.
I definitely agree with the funding thing. I think it is unfair that you have to be 13. Like, so if you're not 13 and you've been a foster youth, it's kind of like, sorry, can't help you. But it also sucks because a lot of, as Donna just said, a lot of us don't, because a lot of us have been passed on so many times, passed on so many times. And as Jose said in the beginning, all we hear is, no, 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 no. And for a lot of times, I know in my case at least, a lot of times I was just a check to the family. It was like, okay, well, I'll take you until that money stops rolling in. And so it's like, well, then if the money stops rolling in, you turn 13, 14 years old. And the harder thing about that is a lot of times nobody wants a kid under 10 years, over 10 years old. A lot of times, if you look at it, the ones that are getting fostered, the ones that are getting adopted are babies, 0 to 10. So everybody over 10, it's kind of like they're stuck. They're on their own. They go live on the beach. They go live, go live on the streets. And then we ask ourselves, oh, why is there such a big, homeless population? Well, it probably started, with them being really young and hearing no all the time. I mean, for me, the other thing that would probably also help GSP a little bit is, besides the funding, I think we should add like a health part of it, for those of us who have mental health or just health problems in general, being able to go to Jose or go to Carmen, or even somebody who's like specialized in, mental health, that is a nurse, or, physical health, that's a nurse, and just, but only part of GSP. And we could be like, hey, I need this. So that doesn't have to be, a hospital visit every single time, because I know right now for me currently having three seizures at this school, it's been a hospital call every single time, and it doesn't need to be. It doesn't always need to be. Sometimes I will wake out of it and I'm fine. So that's kind of my whole thing. So if we can get like somebody who's a professional in it, then we should be fine.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you guys are saying. I guess to emphasize like what Shay was saying about like mental health, I feel like implementing like workshop series on like mental health and budgeting, finance, time management, things that are gonna like help foster youth succeed, in school and like outside of it. But yeah. Yes.
And if we do ever by chance get a therapist, can they please be EMDR certified or have some type of trauma training, because we are a sensitive population and the things that we do deal with, not everybody can handle. And we don't need someone that is not right for the position and then leaves because they can't handle it. Because not only is that going to make guardian scholars lose the trust of their students because we've already had so many inconsistencies, it's going to make us not want to go reach out for help. Because if we're not seeing consistency, if we're not seeing results, even though it's not being intentionally done out of ill will, the way that we have grown up and the way our mind processes things, it will lead us to not trust you as much because we're used to not having that consistency and having to have that wall up. That's like, okay, I'm going to distance myself. So that way, if you make a mistake, I don't have those expectations for you.
Thank you so much. That is powerful. I know that we, as an institution, we always work to make upward mobility and support students as best as we can. And there's always room for improvement. There's always room for growth. And there's always issues that we encounter along the way. One thing that I wanted to mention is, and I know that our students mention specific things regarding services and who can get services or not. So I just wanted to make a quick comment, not go a lot into depth, but also give you some context as to what they were expressing. So one thing that you can see from our students on the panel, and then some of us, we have different branding. You will see Ashay, you will see Danasha, you will see Cecilia. Some of them have Guardian Scholars, then we have NextUp. So recently we have a brand new program that joined our district, and now it's statewide. This specific program, NextUp, was instituted to support our foster youth. What they refer to is, compared to Guardian Scholars, when Guardian Scholars was instituted, we decided that we wanted to breach all the equity barriers and we wanted to be inclusive. So we decided anyone that has been in foster care for 1 day or ward of the court, regardless of their financial status, regardless of how many units they're taking, they're welcome to join the program. As long as they can give us a document that specify, I went into the system for at least 1 day, we welcome everyone. So up until last year, we were supporting our students with GSP funding, and then NextUp came in. NextUp came in, and NextUp came in with more support for our students, but also it came in with the specific restrictions. So those of our students that were in foster care past the age of 13, and at the time of enrollment were 25, could qualify for additional services. But anyone else that left foster care before the age of 13 and aged out because of their age, passing the 25th mark, were no longer eligible for these services. And so currently we are running within our district, we are the only campus between CSM Cañara and Skyline that has 2 specific programs. So we can umbrella and we can accommodate services for everyone. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know how things will continue. But as of now, we take the pride to be able to say, if you were in foster care or ward of the court, welcome in. We're going to be able to provide services. So when they stated those specific limits, that doesn't apply for Guardian Scholars, but they do apply for NextUp. And if you'd like to get more information, someone that might qualify or not, or yourself, you think that you want access services, if you qualify, you can always contact us. So the information is on the main flyer. So you can contact me, Jose Milan, that's my email, or my colleague, friend and Skyline family, Carmen Robbins, who is our program services coordinator. So I just wanted to make that a specific distinguishment. If it confused you and you were thinking, well, but how can you get specific services, but you say you do or you don't qualify? So those are the main particular programs that we carry that support foster youth, and those are the specific criteria. So I want to thank you so much for your time. I do want to give you, before we jump into questions for people in here and on Zoom, if there's anything else that we didn't touch base and you want to include, just let me know. I'm more than happy to provide the space. No, we're good? Yeah.
Sorry, I know I talk a lot, but I think that there's so much that can be done for foster youth or even people that have disabilities or from historically marginalized communities, because higher ed is not a place for people who have struggles. If you aren't able to do things by a certain timeline or fit a certain societal norm, then there's issues that happen along your journey. And I think that the way that we can start to at least break these different barriers, because they are on our campus, we just don't talk about it because we're forgotten. If we were able to have awareness teachings that teach teachers and staff or anyone that works on the SMCCD campuses about working with a sensitive population, I think that would definitely benefit us. I also think that teachers need to get some type of teaching or type of not teaching, a type of training, so that way when they encounter students that are not a traditional student, they aren't giving them issues or not willing to work with them or trying to bounce them around in the system, making them go to different departments when they know that they could simply answer that question. I think that if we did start to do that, you would probably see higher results for people who are in who are foster youth, because when those added challenges are added onto us, they're not understanding that there's an external load that we have, and we have allostatic load, which is a buildup of stress and trauma from our childhoods. So I think that that would be a great integration to help diversify and help the staff become more empathetic and more understanding towards us, and not just kind of brush us off because they don't have that kind of training or they're uncomfortable. There are some times where I feel as though staff or teachers or faculty need to be uncomfortable because we've been uncomfortable our whole lives. And if we can deal with it, you can deal with it as well for 5 to 10 minutes.
Awesome. So before we jump into questions, please give a round of applause. I just want to thank you for your resiliency and your time. I know for some of you it's the first time, for some other, this is not the first time. And I want to continue to encourage you to speak up, to continue to provide your input and your insight. If there is something that I always encourage students overall is make sure that when you leave Skyline, that you feel comfortable because you left a legacy. What was your legacy? What do you leave behind for other students to come? Because if we practice that culture, we know that eventually all the specific barriers and equity gaps that we see, we're going to be able to bridge them and pave the way for others to come. So you're here and you have a specific services and you have a specific spaces that you can voice your concerns because someone else on the past did the work, became uncomfortable, and allow us to have these spaces so we can continue to discuss. So I sincerely appreciate the time, the effort, the willingness, because I know it's difficult. I know that you deal with your own specific issues, but being able to say, let me take my hat off, be uncomfortable, but be genuine, be transparent. That's something that goes ways. And that's something that I will inspire everyone to do it at your own pace and however you feel comfortable. So with that in mind, I wanted us to transition into questions. We have around 14, 15 minutes. So we're gonna, if we have a specific questions during the chat room, we're gonna, to be fair, we're gonna go one in person, one on Zoom. So if anyone has a question, just raise your hands. It can be for our students, it can be for our program, any particular lingering things that you have in mind. Sure. And if you don't mind, just state your name and then your question.
Hi there, my name is Gabriel Mendez. I'm a reporter for the Skyline View, the school newspaper. I was just curious because at the beginning you mentioned there was, correct me if I'm wrong, multiple types or at least multiple sections of foster care, and I wasn't aware with that, and I honestly not sure many people are aware of that. So can you explain that a bit more?
Okay, so what I meant by that, and I'm sorry I didn't clarify that earlier, but so there's different kinds. There's kinship. That's when something happens in your family and you get relocated to someone else that is a part of your family but isn't immediate. There's guardianship where it could also be family, but most of the time it ends up being like if you're in a foster home and you have like different adoptive families. I don't know the names of all of them, but there are different kinds. If you want, I could talk with you after and see if I can send you some resources. So that way, if you want to include it, I could do that. Yeah. But there are different sectors. And so when you look at the different requirements on the school's website, sometimes they will have specific criteria that states you had to have been in foster care by the age of 13. Or you could, or sometimes they'll say you're not eligible because you were in a guardianship or a kinship. Where the issue comes outside of higher ed is that there are specific programs that are designated for you to age out of the foster care system. Some of them are considered non-dependents of the state, and they can only be in foster care until the age of 21, where I believe is when you're not adopted and you've just been in the system the whole time. Once you reach 25, then you age out, I think, but I can double check with that and I can get you a resource for that. But there's different like transitional housing or monthly supplements. Once you age out and you're a non-dependent, you don't get those transitional housing services. You don't get additional compensation or anything like that. You're just kind of thrown out to the wolves. And that's exactly how it felt like. And most of the time, foster youth are not finding out this information until their transition meeting, which happens like the week before they turn 21. So it can be really hard because if you don't have a support system in place, like guardian scholars or familial support, you have nothing. You can go from having monthly supplements from $1,000 and then have absolutely nothing. Your healthcare can be gone. Access to different counselors or resources that are specifically connected to the county, you can lose that as well. And just now they started integrating people who were in kinships or legal guardianships for some of these programs, but they're mainly for employment services. It's not regarding like financial support or housing support, which is what we really need because those are our basic necessities besides employment.
Do you want a job at Guardian Scholars? Because you have a lot of information, Danesha. So thank you so much for going into details. It gets complicated. It really does get complicated. And that's why we try to make sure that as long as we have a document in our program that will give us the flexibility to decide whether or not you qualify, that we can do that. And as you hear from Danesha, it gets so overwhelming at times that students they give up on the proceeding to follow up with a specific court or a specific county entity or state entity. We have had students that went into care, but it was so long ago. Students that I still consider them super young, super relevant, with a bright future, but the system lost their paperwork because it was all filing back on the, I will say, students on the 70s. And so those students get dismissed. And then I feel that then that is our responsibility to take a judgment call and say, well, how can I do to support them if somebody has already failed them and prepare them to the next transition? Because we also are mindful that when they leave us, not everyone will be so understanding. And I know that there is specific regulations. So it's just always keeping that in mind. And one thing that I will urge you is let's be proactive and not reactive. So that's something that we always want to guide our conversations on ourselves. How can we support our students now, anticipate the issues that will come in the future, and be able to navigate them, navigate every specific. We are a community, we're blessed to be at Skyline, we're super community oriented, and that really help us navigate this specific conversation. So does anyone have any other particular question for our panelists or for our staff? So we don't have anything on Zoom. If we don't have any, sure.
Thank you. Thank you again for sharing your experience. I know it's something that is I cannot imagine how difficult or how easy it might be to share. So we really appreciate that you have. You talked about the idea of guardian scholars growing and what kind of what it could look like if it were to be larger and be able to support more students. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about the opposite. What if guardian scholars didn't exist? What would the experience at Skyline be if that was the case?
Um, I can only speak for myself, but I think if guardian scholars did not exist to the extent that it does today, I can honestly tell you I would not be at Skyline. I would be still on the streets with my two dogs trying to figure out life. I did not have the support of my family. They're trying their best now, but they didn't then. And I think, you know, you wouldn't you would not know I existed, honestly. Guardian Scholars is probably one of the most important and probably the only reason, one of the few reasons that I come to school every day is to go to them and say, hey, I need help with this. Hey, Carmen, how are you doing? Even Carmen just saying, hey, how's your day? Makes my day feel a lot better. Or talking to Jose and be like, hey, how are you going? Talking to them is probably one of the reasons that I come to school. It would be a tragedy if guardian scholars did not exist.
To add to Shay, I also would not be here. I would not, for one, I wouldn't feel supported. And I've been in positions in my whole life where I haven't felt supported and it did not benefit me at all, whether that be being in inpatient hospital settings or being in the wrong crowd. If guardian scholars did not exist, I would not be in school. I wouldn't be here. I would try and find somewhere else that had some kind of support system for foster youth. If it didn't exist at all completely, like if it never ever happened, I probably would be in the streets. I would be dead. I would be in jail. I would either be on some substance abuse or drug issues. I wouldn't have the opportunities that I would have today. I wouldn't have my son. I would be in such a different place. I would be one of the people that you see on the street asking for change. And nothing is, I mean, there is something wrong with that. They shouldn't be out there. They need resources as well. But I wouldn't, school is the reason why I get up every day to go and do something. School is what makes me an individual. And even though when I'm on campus and I don't always feel accepted by professors or staff, or I feel like I get treated differently or we get put under the rug like a lost cause, um, I wouldn't, I wouldn't be here. That's the best way that I can describe it. I would be a lost cause. I would be like a waste of space in a sense. And I think that if guardian scholars were to like disappear, um, that would be such an injustice to foster youth everywhere because we didn't ask to be here. We didn't ask to be born. We didn't ask to be put in foster care. And yeah, some of us have better outcomes than others, but it's not enough to the point where it would be significant enough for us to be able to get rid of guardian scholars. And if anything, guardian scholars could do more because there's so little of us here. And when I speak to different people in the community, because I used to work in financial aid on campus, there's so many barriers already. Like, for example, even though I was in foster care, I don't qualify for the Chafee grant. So the funding that I get from Guardian Scholars is so helpful. The only reason why I'm able to eat on campus is Guardian Scholars because they gave me the resources that I need to get food on campus. Because when I'm at home, it's my son eating and I'll, sacrifice. There were times where I did have to do that. And with the support that I get from Guardian Scholars with Tango and stuff like that, I'm able to make sure that not only does my son get to eat, I get to eat, and all my basic needs are covered. But if Guardian Scholars was gone, I don't even know what to say. Like I would be kind of speechless if that were to ever happen. I think that um if and to play the devil's advocate, let's say I did still go to school, but I didn't have guardian scholars, I would be in debt. I wouldn't be able to do a lot of things that I have now. I probably would have to work and go to school at the same time while having a disability that prevents me from working. And I think that I would find some type of way, because I'm a kid that doesn't shut up. I always try and find a way to fix a problem or to help alleviate someone's pain or their struggles. So I think that if it didn't exist, I would try and make it exist, like I do with different things that I don't see around campus or even in the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like you guys got a lot of like, and I agree with everything you guys have said. I would definitely not be here. I probably would have dropped out, honestly. I was struggling a lot before I got like, knew about GSP and realized like all the resources that they provide. Um, yeah, like even I was like working in the city for a minute and that was like really stressful because I had to go back and forth from like BART and everything. And then I talked to Jose and he told me about work study and that helped me so much. So, and just, having to work and be at school, those are very difficult. So if I didn't have the support that GSB has provided me with, I would definitely, yeah, I wouldn't be here. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I can promise you that we didn't pay them, and it really brings a lot of joy to my heart just to be kept in such a high regards. Again, something that we tell our Skyline family, we become a family, and once you're in our program, you can always come back. Yes, there might be a specific restrictions if you're no longer at Skyline, but the support that we can provide to you when it comes to mentorship and case management will always be there. So thank you so much for taking the time, for being here in this space. Um, we are located in Building 19. As some of you, I'm hoping that all of you know, student services now are located primarily, for the most part, not everyone, but for the most part in Building 19. So you could always find us in Building 19. There is a rumor that eventually in the future we'll be back in Building 2, whenever that is. So we'll have a brand new office and space, a better spacing for students and for all of you to come by. But for the meantime, we'll be in Building 19. So if you ever need to talk to anyone, you need guidance, you need to support the support that rightfully you deserve, come and talk to us. Something that I always navigate, and our students do it as well, and they mimic it, is if you need support, we're there to support you. We have students coming from the undocumented center to get help with their dream acts when financial aid is overwhelmed and swamped. Things that we have the capacity to do so, always come and talk to us, because we would like to hear your stories and point you out to the specific services that you will qualify for. So don't feel that if you were not in foster care or you don't qualify for services, that you don't have access to us. You could always talk to us. We're more than happy to support you. Don't be a stranger. Just visit us whenever. And so I want to end by thanking you from the bottom of my heart for being vulnerable, for being resilient, and providing the resources. And also I wanted to thank my colleague, Carmen Robbins. She put most of this workshop together. She is the only and the main reason why we can make things happen. So when you see programming, when you see budgeting, when you see a specific event, she makes it happen. And she's the first one that will say, even if it's difficult, but if it can happen, she'll make it happen. So thank you, Carmen.
I just want to say thank you so much, ladies. Ashay, I learned a little bit more about you, even though I've been knowing you for years. Danaja, of course, I know you, and I appreciate you sharing, your experience. And Miss Cece, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, ladies.